Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today we will learn hazardous waste treatment and disposal under the paper Solid and Hazardous Waste Management. So, our learning objectives are: first, to gain knowledge on various physical, chemical, thermal and biological methods available for treatment of hazardous waste. Second, to understand the concept of landfill and its role in containment of hazardous waste. Third, to familiarize the alternate disposal options available for hazardous waste. Now, treatment and disposal. So, for treatment and disposal, hazardous waste reduction and minimization is of foremost importance. Hazardous waste require special control procedures. Effective identification and labeling of waste by the generators is essential to the effective operation of any manifest based system. Management of hazardous waste implies consideration of alternate methods and schemes, both institutional and technical, to hazardous waste reduction. Some important measures which are commonly adopted as part of hazardous waste reduction and minimization measures are mentioned in adjacent box, which includes elimination, reduction, recycling. Treatment to reduce their volume and toxicity. First, elimination. The primary priority is to find ways to eliminate uses of hazardous substances altogether. Elimination might be achieved by changing manufacturing processes or by substituting products that can satisfy the same need without creating hazardous waste. For example, substitution of concrete post in place of creosote treated wooden post. Now, reduction. The next priority is to reduce the amount generated. Again, manufacturing processes can be modified to yield substantial waste reduction. For example, change in the chemical reaction conditions can minimize production of byproduct hazardous substances. In some instances, potential hazardous catalyst can be replaced by catalysts that are non-hazardous or that can be recycled rather than discarded. Now, recycling. The third strategy is to recycle hazardous substances such as solvents and acids to maximize their use before treatment and disposal becomes necessary. Many industrial processes that use solvents are equipped for solvent recycle for reasons of both economic and pollution control. A number of operations are used in solvent purification. Entrained solids are removed by settling, filtration or centrifugation. Drying agents may be used to remove water. Fractional distillation is used to separate solvent from impurities, water and other solvents. Finally, hazardous substances can be treated to reduce their volume and toxicity. Eliminating, reducing and recycling hazardous substances reduces treatment and disposal cost, and often the generator can find it in their own economic best interest to actively seek out these source reduction opportunities as a way to reduce the overall cost of doing business. Now, hazardous waste treatment technologies. The selection of treatment process for waste stream depends on, among other factors, the nature of the waste, desired characteristics of the output stream. Even after vigorous hazardous waste reduction program, there will still be large quantities of hazardous waste that will require treatment and disposal. The treatment technologies have been characterized as physical, chemical, biological, thermal or stabilization fixation process. First, physical treatment methods. Under this comes first adsorption. Adsorption on activated carbon occurs when a molecule is brought up to its surface and held there by physical or chemical forces. This process is reversible, thus allowing activated carbon to be regenerated and reused by proper application of heat and steam or solvent. If the concentration of the adsorbed species is high enough and the material is biodegradable and non-toxic to the bacteria, then biological activity may significantly increase the effective removal capacity. Removal through adsorption by activated carbon has been applied to aqueous waste streams such as petroleum fraction, syrups, vegetable oils and pharmaceutical preparations. The factors that relate to adsorption capacity are greater surface area produces greater adsorption capacity. For example, activated carbon has large surface area. Absorptivity increases as the solubility of the solute decreases. Thus, for hydrocarbons, adsorption increases with molecular weight. For solutes with ionizable group, maximum adsorption will be achieved at pH corresponding to minimum ionization. Adsorption capacity decreases with increasing temperature. Now, resin adsorption. Waste treatment by resin involves two basic steps. First, contacting the liquid waste stream with resin and allowing the resin to absorb the solute from solution, and second, subsequently regenerating the resin by removing the adsorbed chemicals by simply washing with proper solvent. The adsorption of non-polar molecule onto a hydrophobic resin results primarily from the effect of van der Waals forces. In other cases, other types of interactions such as dipole-dipole interaction and hydrogen bonding are important. In few cases, ion exchange mechanism may be involved. For the removal of organic dye waste from wastewater, two different resins are employed. In this case, the waste stream is first contacted with normal polymeric adsorbent and then with an ion exchange resin. Now, sedimentation. Sedimentation is a physical process whereby a particle suspended in liquid settles by means of gravity. Sedimentation can be either a batch or continuous process. Continuous process technique has been widely used in the removal of heavy metals from iron and steel industry wastewater, removal of fluoride from aluminum production wastewater, and removal of heavy metals from wastewater from copper smelting and from metal finishing industry and wastewater stream from organic chemicals. A basin or container of sufficient size to maintain the liquid to be treated in relatively quiescent state of a specified period of time. A means of directing the liquid to be treated into the above basin in a manner conducive to settling. A means of physically removing the settled particle from the liquid. Now, next is electrodialysis. Electrodialysis involves the separation of an aqueous stream, which is a more concentrated in electrolyte than the original, and a depleted stream. Success of the process depends on special synthetic membrane, usually based on ion exchange resin, which are permeable only to single type of ion. The feed water is passed through compartments formed by the space between alternating cation permeable and anion permeable membrane held in a stack. At each end of stack is an electrode having the same area as the membrane. A DC potential applied across the stack causes positive and negative ions to migrate in opposite directions. This technique has been used for desalination to produce potable water from brackish well water. In food industry, electrodialysis is used for desalinating whey. The chemical industry uses this technique for enriching or depleting solutions and for removing mineral constituent from product stream. Now, next is reverse osmosis. This technique, which is most widely used, consists of a membrane permeable to solvent but impermeable to most dissolved species, both organic and inorganic. These devices use pressure to force contaminated water against semi-permeable membrane. The membrane acts as filter, allowing water to be pushed through the pores but restricting the passage of larger molecules that are to be removed. Cellulose acetate membrane are used in the past, but nowadays polysulfones and polyamide are increasingly popular for use at high pH values. Because of the susceptibility of membrane to chemical attack and fouling and the susceptibility of the flow system to plugging and erosion, it is commonly to reprocess the feed water to remove oxidizing material. Now, next is solvent extraction. Solvent extraction is the separation of constituent of liquid solution by contact with another immiscible liquid. If the substance comprising the original solution distribute themselves differently between the two liquid phases, a certain degree of separation will result, and this may be enhanced by the use of multiple contacts. The major application of solvent extraction to wastewater treatment has been in the removal of phenol from byproduct water produced in coal coking, petroleum, refining and chemical synthesis that involve phenol. The use of supercritical fluids SCF, most commonly CO2 as extraction solvent, has been one of the most promising approach to solvent extraction. SCF are fluid existing at or above lowest temperature at which condensation may occur. Now, next is desalination. Desalination is expensive and energy intensive and can probably be justified only in cases where valuable product recovery is feasible, like solvent recovery. This technique has only limited application in the treatment of diluted aqueous hazardous waste. Now, next is evaporation. Evaporation process is used for the treatment of hazardous waste such as radioactive liquids and sludges and concentrating of plating and paint solvent waste among many other applications. It is capable of handling liquids, slurries and sometimes sludges, both organic and inorganic, containing suspended or dissolved solids or dissolved liquids, where one of the compound is essentially non-volatile. It can be used to reduce waste volume prior to landfill, disposal or incineration. The major disadvantage of evaporation are high capital and operating cost and high energy requirement. This process is more adaptable to wastewaters with high concentration of pollutants. Now, next is filtration. Filtration is well developed economical process used in full scale treatment of many industrial wastewaters and waste sludges. Energy requirements are relatively low and operational parameters are well defined. However, it is not a primary treatment process and is often used in conjunction with precipitation, flocculation and sedimentation to remove these solids. Now, next is flocculation. Chemicals used for flocculation include alum, lime, ferric chloride, ferrous sulfate and polyelectrolytes. The inorganic flocculants such as alum, upon mixing with water, the slightly higher pH of water causes them to hydrolyze to form gelatinous precipitates of aluminum hydroxide. It is partially because of their large surface area they are able to entangle small particles and thereby create larger particle. Once suspended particle have been flocculated into larger particle, they usually can be removed from the liquid by sedimentation, provided that a sufficient density difference exists between suspended matter and the liquid. The various phenomena that occur during flocculation can be grouped in to two sequential mechanisms: chemically induced destabilization of repulsive surface related forces, thus allowing particle to stick together when they touch, and chemical bridging and physical enmeshment between the non-repelling particle, allowing for the formation of large particles. Now, chemical treatment methods. Under chemical treatment methods, first is chemical oxidation and reduction. Oxidation reduction is one of the important route used for the treatment of hazardous waste. It is process by which hazardous waste are converted into a form that shows reduced or no toxicity, reduced or no mobility and remains inert. The process can be short or medium term technology and use oxidizing agent for the treatment of hazardous waste. Chlorine in alkali solution is used, which converts cyanide into cyanate, which is lesser toxic form. More addition of chlorine oxidizes the cyanate to carbon dioxide and nitrogen gas. Hexavalent chromium is reduced to trivalent chromium by using sulfur dioxide as a reducing agent, which is shown in the reaction below. Then in another example, iron is oxidized and precipitated as ferric oxide, which is mentioned below. Then sulfur dioxide is oxidized to sulfuric acid. Now, moving on to ozonolysis. Ozone is used to oxidize a wide variety of contaminants present in wastewater and sludge. Ozone is generated by an electrical discharge through dry air or oxygen. Ozone is also used to destruct TCDD and PCBs. TCDD demonstrated that if the dioxins were suspended as an aerosol in combination with CC14, degradation of 97% TCDD would be possible. Destruction of polychlorinated phenols and pesticides by ozone can be done in conjunction with UV radiation. In both the cases, the key requirement were to concentrate the TCDD in a medium where they were susceptible to attack and provide a free radical for reaction with dioxin molecules. The reactions are mentioned below. Now, next is acid-base neutralization. A waste showing a pH less than 2 or more than 12.5 are characterized as corrosive hazardous waste. They can be neutralized by acid-base reactions. Lime is used to neutralize acid waste. Addition of slaked lime to acidic waste in a continuously stirred chemical reactor results in neutralization of hazardous waste. Similar to lime, sulfuric acid and acetic acid is used for neutralizing alkaline waste. Certain alkaline waste are also neutralized by bubbling gaseous CO2 forming carbonic acids. In addition to this, may other waste treatment process require prior pH adjustment. The process include oxidation reduction, adsorption, wet air oxidation, ion exchange, stripping and biochemical treatment. Now, next is chemical precipitation. Precipitation is applicable for mixed waste that contain both organic and inorganic species. By this method, the toxic substance or metals are precipitated using chemicals and removed from the solution by sedimentation, settling or filtration. Alteration of solution pH will minimize the solubilization of heavy metals which can further be precipitated as precipitable hazardous constituents. Slaked lime or caustic soda is used for precipitation of metal ions as metal hydroxides. Now, the following reaction suggests the use of lime to precipitate the metal as hydroxides. Chromium is precipitated as hydroxide. Sodium carbonate is also used to precipitate metals as hydroxides, carbonates, basic carbonate salts and etc. Carbonate ion hydrolysis in water to give hydroxide ions. Metals can be precipitated as sulfides from solution. Precipitating the metal as sulfides will facilitate removal of low concentration of metals. Ferrous sulfide is popularly used. Sodium borohydride is another reducing agent that precipitates metal in elemental form. The reaction is given below. Now, next is hydrolysis. Hydrolysis treatment can be given to those hazardous waste constituents which show high reactivity with water. Example of those substances are halides, carbide, hydride, alkoxide and active metals. Next is ion exchange. Ion exchange is best suited for waste that have undergone pre-treatment or minimum treatment with other chemical and physical methods. It is suitable for removing inorganic chemical species that are in dissolved form, unlike precipitation, flocculation or sedimentation. Basically, it is used as final polishing step to reduce an inorganic species that could be reduced to satisfactory level by preceding treatment process. Nickel cyanide complex and chromate ion from hazardous waste solution are removed by anion exchange membranes. Ion exchange resins have also been used in removal of radionuclides from radioactive waste. Now, thermal treatment methods. Thermal destruction of hazardous waste is done by incineration and pyrolysis. Incineration is a process that combusts the waste at high temperature ranging between 900 to 1100 degrees Celsius in the presence of oxygen. This process converts waste to an inert, less toxic and less bulky material, namely ash. The organic elements such as carbon, hydrogen and oxygen are converted wholly or partially to gaseous form. The principal products of incineration are carbon dioxide, water vapor and ash. Now, let us see the advantages of incineration. Reduces 90% volume of waste, can be scaled to handle large volumes of liquid waste. It is the best method for mixed waste and biologically hazardous waste. It does not require large area of land, compact units. Now, we will see disadvantages of incineration. It has a high capital and operation cost. The ash must be disposed of properly. The gaseous and particulate products of combustion should be controlled by air pollution control devices. Now, next is wet air oxidation. Wet air oxidation is the process by which dissolved or suspended organic substance are oxidized in aqueous phase at temperature and pressure of 150 to 3000 and 250 degrees Celsius and 2000 kilopascals to 20,000 kilopascals respectively. Water acts as catalyzing agent and moderator by removing excess heat in reaction mixture. Water also acts as an excellent heat transfer medium, so that the wet air oxidation process becomes thermally self-sustaining at low organic feed conditions. In wet air oxidation, the waste is pumped into the system through heat exchanger into the reactor with high pressure pump and mixed with air from air compressor. High pressure facilitates dissolving of oxygen in water. Within the reactor, the organic waste is reacted with atmospheric oxygen. Sometimes the oxidation is carried out in presence of catalyst. Cyanide from electroplating waste solution are removed by wet air oxidation process. The process can be used for removal of different metals. Now, photolysis. In photolysis, light is used as an agent to cleave chemical bonds of hazardous waste materials. Initially, the chemical species is excited by light. It is usually a diradical state because diradical possess sufficient energy to undergo chemical reaction. The success or effectiveness of the process depends on chemical structure of the compound, efficiency of the radiation source and medium in which the reaction is carried out. The end product also determines the efficiency of the process. Polychlorinated biphenyls PCBs and chlorinated dibenzo p-dioxins CDDs are destroyed by photolysis. The three requirements of photolysis of tetrachlorodibenzo p-dioxins are: first, dissolution in light transmitting film, second, presence of organic hydrogen odor, and third, UV light. Generally, during photolysis reaction, HO radical is formed which play an important role in chain reactions, resulting in destruction of the compound. Now, third one is biological treatment of hazardous waste. Biological processes are simple, cost effective and eco-friendly process. However, its application to hazardous waste is slightly limited due to its toxic nature which is harmful to biological agents. The biodegradability of the waste depends on physical and chemical properties of the compound. Selection of appropriate organisms and optimum condition can favor degradation of chemical compounds that are considered harmful or biocidal. Example, phenol and phenolic compounds can be treated by proper acclimatization of microorganisms to the hazardous waste. Both aerobic and anaerobic bacteria are used for hazardous waste biodegradation. The presence of inorganic substance limit the biodegradation of waste as they inhibit enzymatic activity and further get absorbed onto the microbial cell coating. Landfill leachate is treated with microorganisms. During the process, H2S is generated which precipitates toxic heavy metal ions to their respective sulfides. The overall degradation of hypothetical organic compound can be written as follows, in which we can see the end product of degradation is carbon dioxide and water. Now, next is land treatment. The application of waste to solid surface in a controlled manner is termed as land treatment of hazardous waste. This process facilitates containment of waste, followed by biological and chemical degradation of organic waste. This type of treatment is different from landfilling. Here, the soil is used to detoxify, immobilize and degrade all or portion of applied waste. Landfills contain waste and control its migration from the site. Hazardous waste should not be placed in a land treatment site unless the waste can be made less hazardous or non-hazardous by reaction occurring in the soil. The waste is added or mixed to aerobic soil horizon in a controlled manner at appropriate conditions. By this process, the physical, chemical and biological characteristics of waste are altered. Bacteria, fungi and actinomycetes play a major role in land treatment. Genus Agrobacterium, Enterobacterium, Bacillus flavobacterium, Pseudomonas are some of the bacteria involved in the degradation. Waste from petroleum refining, biodegradable organic chemical waste including organochlorine compounds are suitable for land treatment. Land treatment should not be applied to waste containing acids, bases, toxic inorganic compounds, salts, heavy metals and excessively soluble volatile and flammable organic compounds. Now landfills. The liner system, waste, emplacement and cover system are the three components of landfills. Liners should be impermeable and avoid the contact between waste and surrounding environment. Leachate collection system, drains and leak detectors too form an integral part of landfill system. They ensure that leachate does not leave the disposal site. Hazardous waste are contained in secured landfills provided with double liner system. The liner system consists of natural clay, synthetic material such as polymer and leachate collection. The primary barrier is synthetic polymer flexible membrane with separation layer of a thin geotextile or polymeric material such as SDPE, LDPE, PVC, etc. Now secondary barrier. Secondary barrier is composed of clay, bentonite, enhanced soil or geosynthetic clay. A leachate collection tubes are layered between the waste and the protection layer. It channelizes the leachate to a pumping station where they are removed and taken up for further treatment. An intermediate high permeability drainage layer is incorporated between primary and secondary barrier. This layer is for the collection of leachate and gas. Every barrier is separated by geotextile fabric. The landfill is sloped to avoid infiltration of water and runoff associated with it. The leachate that is collected is treated by first passing it through a column containing sorbate material such as carbon or fly ash. Second, subjected to suitable physical chemical unit such as chemical addition, flocculation, sedimentation, pressure filtration, pH adjustment and reverse osmosis to remove the dissolved water. The secondary leachate collection system acts as a backup system which will be useful during the failure of primary leachate system. Continuous monitoring of the groundwater from the wall will help us to determine the failure of primary and secondary liner system. Waste is loaded inside the landfill after preliminary treatment such as solidification, stabilization, etc. The cover or capping is also essential component of waste landfill. The purpose of the landfill cover is to protect the waste, prevent the entry of rain and surface water into the waste, control the release of landfill gas, to prevent ingress of air and enable growth of short rooted plant when covered with topsoil. Landfills are allowed with sufficient vent points so that if methane is generated, it may be burnt off continuously. Now, here is a figure which depicts schematic of hazardous waste landfill. In this figure, we can clearly see monitoring well on either side of leachate collection basin, which is followed by monitoring site in unsaturated zone. Now, surface impoundments. A surface impoundment is a man-made excavation, diked area or natural topographic depression designed to hold an accumulation of liquid waste. The construction is similar to landfill where the bottom wall function like liner which is impermeable to liquids. The surface impoundments are also provided with provision for leachate collection. Geological siting and selection of low permeable material like soil and clay are very important as they will arrest or minimize the chances of pollution. Now, next is underground injection. Underground injection or deep well disposal is method by which the hazardous waste material are injected into underground strata under pressure. The underground strata must be impermeable and separated from the aquifers. During this process, the chance of chemical reactions with waste constituent and mineral is possible. This will result in corrosion, clogging problems. The main concern with underground injection is the potential for contaminating underground drinking water supplies if the disposal well is not properly cased or if it is damaged. Now, to summarize, we studied reduction and minimization measures for hazardous waste, physical methods of hazardous waste treatment namely adsorption, resin adsorption, sedimentation, electrodialysis and other chemical treatment of hazardous waste through chemical oxidation, reduction, precipitation, ion exchange, hydrolysis, ozonation etc. Thermal destruction of hazardous waste via incineration and pyrolysis, then biological treatment and various disposal options available for hazardous waste.